Yo, what's going on, man? Today is January the 10th, 2022. The Cashed It with Chris podcast is back, man. It's been a while. Stopped doing these right around the Christmas break just because we was getting a lot of variance with the injury report, a lot of manipulation with the injury report as well. From the NBA, a lot of these guys know whether they're gonna play or not the night before. They know earlier in the day, but we've been getting the manipulation. So took a break from doing these. Also, just time to reset, recharge, refocus. But I think it's a good time to kind of jump back into it, man. So the Cashed It with Chris podcast is back now. Try to do this thing every single day, as always, 7 a.m. Eastern time. The podcast is presented to you guys by the Basketball Forever Podcast Network. As always, a lot of great podcasts going on over there. Not just myself. This just happens to be the gambling podcast, but a lot of great podcasts going on over there. So be sure to check out the Basketball Forever Podcast Network on all their social media platforms. There's a Twitter. There's also an Instagram. So check those guys out over there. Real quick recap of what's been going on, because I still have been doing shows if you guys aren't 100% aware. Real quick recap. So yesterday was on Chicago Bulls. I took their team total over 113.5, and we saw them just come out extremely flat, which didn't really surprise me a lot because Chicago does come out flat. But being that they never got back into it, sometimes they're a better second half team than they are first half team. They just never got into it. DeRozan getting hurt, leaving the game didn't help any. Said he could have played through it, but just wanted to make sure he was trying to be precautious as possible. So it makes sense. Boston didn't hit their team total over either. I thought coming back home, Boston would light up Chicago and Chicago would be able to score. I was projecting that game to go over, and the game went under. So Chicago Bulls team total also went under. Took them at 113.5. They failed to score 100 points, just stopping at 99. So lost there. Also was on Giannis, to kind of keep it going yesterday after getting embarrassed by Charlotte at home. And, of course, the guys come to the rescue yesterday. Drew Holiday has a big game. Brooke Lopez chips in a bunch of dunks, a bunch of jump shots, a bunch of rim runs. So Giannis doesn't need to do as much when he finally gets help, of course. So his points plus rebounds at 43.5 did not cash either. So that's all in the past, though. Let's get into today's slate and try to get that money back from yesterday. Got a few notes that I want to share, and not the greatest slate today. Not the greatest slate today. Got some more diving to do as always, but let's talk about what we got today. So first game up. Let's see, I got my banners back. And y'all be sure to hit the like button, support the show if you guys can, retweet it if you guys are watching on Twitter, all that good stuff. And let's get into the slate for today. So first game up, we got the Pistons and the 76ers, man. So real interesting because these two teams just played. We see they just played in Detroit on Sunday. Philly was laying six in that game. I think it might have closed at 6.5. Line up to 10. They absolutely destroyed Detroit. Shorthanded without Embiid, without PJ Tucker in that one. These teams, like I said, just played on Sunday. Embiid has been upgraded to questionable. So that's the news we're going to be waiting on all day long. I'm pretty sure he doesn't come back for this game. Not 100% sure, of course. But last week when talking to reporters, Doc Rivers said that, he was without a timetable to return. To me, that sounds like he's going to miss more than just 3 games. He didn't play last week when they played the Indiana Pacers, but all of a sudden he's supposed to return back for this game against the Detroit Pistons. Maybe it's a game, you kind of want to work him back in against a really poor defensive team, but I don't see Embiid coming back for this one. Like I said, he has been upgraded to questionable. We'll probably end up waiting on that news all day. This team, he missed the last game, of course. You look at the Sixers, this team, like just trying to cap this game, and I don't want to spend too much time on this game because the Pistons are one of the worst teams in basketball. This team is just 11-32, dealing with a lot of injuries as well. Cade's out for the season. Jaden Duren is also going to be out for this game. Bogdanovich is also ruled out for this game. So, like I said, Philly, one of the better home teams in the league. This team is 16-6 straight up at home, 15-7 against the spread, one of the best, records both wise, and don't really have a lot to prove to the Detroit Pistons in this spot. The Pistons are also just 1-8 against the spread in their last 9 meetings in Philly, so they typically don't travel well to Philly. I think Philly has enough to be able to get to whatever their team total is in this one, and that's the way I would look to play this one. You look at the Philadelphia 76ers, if Embiid is ruled in, and I had this pulled up last night, just didn't jot it down. The Sixers are something like, I think, 11-2 against the spread as a home favorite with Joel Embiid in the lineup for the game. So I'd be looking to take Philadelphia in some way, shape, or form, team total. If Joel Embiid is ruled in, then of course you don't want to be on Harden as much. But on Sunday, James Harden, I took his rebounds plus assists, thinking that, without Joel Embiid being in the game, without PJ Tucker being in the game, he would be the guy that would be rebounding the ball. We know Detroit shoots a lot of bricks, and Joel and James Harden cashed his rebound prop before halftime. In that game, Detroit, I don't see them coming up on the road and being able to do too much more. I know sometimes you think about a letdown spot for a team like Philly, especially after beating Detroit already. But to me, I don't see that. And the reason why I don't see that is because Detroit struggles to score the ball offensively. They play hard. They just don't have a lot of guys that can put the ball in the rim. They don't have a lot of guys that can create easy shots. And when you take out a guy like Bojan Bogdanovic, it becomes even more difficult. So didn't want to spend too much time on that game, but I'd be looking towards the Philadelphia team total over or the Detroit Pistons team total under. If you guys come back for the Crispy Cap and NBA show, I'll probably have an official play on that game as I look a little more deeper into it. But not putting my money on Detroit by any means necessary. I think Philly could win this game by 20 if they wanted to. Moving along, I want to talk about the Charlotte Hornets and the Toronto Raptors game. So the Charlotte Hornets are coming into this game 12-8-2 against the spread on the road, which is not as bad of a road ATS record as it is a regular record. They are only 6-16 as a road team. This team struggles to score the ball as well. Although recently they did give the Bucks 50 points in the first quarter out of nowhere in that spot. So Charlotte 12-8-2 ATS on the road, back-to-back road games, back-to-back good road performances, even though they did lose to the Indiana Pacers late in that game on Sunday. So the Hornets, like I said, they had a really strong performance against the Bucks, kind of came from out of nowhere, hit the Bucks upside the head before the Bucks even knew what happened. That game was over with on Friday evening. Go to Indiana and was actually winning that game most of the game. Indiana come back and fight hard in that game and end up winning that game late. Now you get the Charlotte Hornets in Toronto laying 7.5 points in this spot. And they haven't been a really good team recently. They did get a home win on Sunday against the visiting Portland Trailblazers, who are also struggling right now, and a team that we're going to talk about in just a second. But this Toronto team, only 4-6 in their last 10 games, 5-5 against the spread. But Charlotte, just 3-7 their last 10, 4-5-1 against the spread. So two teams that can be really, really difficult to back. One thing that I looked at was, I talked about Charlotte offense, not being the greatest offense, especially recently. I know Gordon Hayward is listed as questionable for this game. Without Kelly Oubre, Toronto could really come in here and turn up, man. They could absolutely turn up. But Toronto can struggle to score the ball as well. This does feel like a game that Toronto should turn up in. I don't want to lay eight points with Toronto. So if I get there and end up playing Toronto, it may be something like a team total. Charlotte has been playing just a tad bit better defense as well. They played good defense on Friday night in Milwaukee. They also played pretty good defense against the Pacers on Sunday, losing that game as well. So I'm saying a lot of things that kind of contradict themselves. So probably won't have a play in this one. But what I had written in my notes that Charlotte has reached their team total in 5 of their last 6 games as an away dog. When the line is greater than 7 or more. So these are the spots that Charlotte actually plays well in as an away dog. Catching a bunch of points. they've actually hit their team total in 5 of those 6 games. So interesting to note that these two teams do play again on Thursday in Toronto. So it's one of those back-to-backs where nobody has to travel. They'll be playing in the same exact gym, just with a day of rest in between. Toronto, 4th game of a 7-game homestand. Charlotte, 3rd game of a 4-game road trip. You typically want to back the teams that are on the on the 4th game of a 7-game homestand. And for Toronto right now, this is the time of the year where they really have to figure out if they want to make a push and try to get to the playoffs, or if they're going to just kind of chuck it up. I was watching the game on Sunday against the Blazers, and the announcers kind of said the same thing. This team is only 17-23 straight up, but they are 12-10 at home. So Toronto typically turns up at home, but like I said, 8 seems too many points to lay, so probably won't lay that with them. Interesting to note as well, Toronto has won the last 3 meetings in Toronto, but Charlotte has covered 2 of those last 3. Hornets 6-2 against the spread in their last 8 in Toronto, and 18-8 ATS in the last 26 games in Toronto as well. So not a play for me that I want to get in on this game. If so, I might look at player prop. I do think it's interesting to note that Plumlee, right? You want, when you tackle Toronto, you typically want to do it with the opposing center, and you want to do it from their rebound perspective. Plumlee is somebody I will be looking at. His rebounds over. Mason Plumlee rebounds over. So Mason Plumlee has double-digit rebounds in 6 of the last 7 games. He's averaging 10.3 rebounds in the last 10 games on 18.6 rebound chances. Toronto, 29th in rebounding and rebounds allowed in the last 10 games overall. They're allowing the most rebounds to centers the last 7 games. And you look at this Toronto team, who have they given up big rebound games to? 20 to Sabonis, you might ask. And these are all in Toronto as well. 20 to Sabonis. Brook Lopez just had 19. Nurkic had 18 on Sunday. Mitchell Robinson had 18 on Friday. Steven Adams had 17 last week. Zubac had 16. Like I said, all those games in Toronto. So Plumlee rebounds will probably come out at 10.5, and I do think that that's probably definitely worth a stab for sure. So that's what I got for you guys on that game. Heat and the Thunder don't really have much on this game. Miami is laying 4.5 points, coming off the cover, but they did lose that game on Sunday. Royce O'Neal got a game-winning tip-in after, I think it was a Kyrie shot that didn't go in. OKC has been a really, really difficult team to cap, right? This team is just kind of up and down. They lost their 2 last road games, but absolutely smack up the opponents that come into OKC recently. And this game is difficult to cap because we don't know what's going on the injury report. It's a lot of different moving pieces, man. You look at the Miami Heat roster, a lot of guys on the injury report. Pretty much the whole team. Bam is listed as questionable. Kyle Lowry's already been ruled out, but Tyler Herro is also listed as questionable. And Cody Martin is also listed as questionable. And that's just the beginning of it. It's a lot of other guys, but I just kind of wanted to focus on the main guys as far as the injury report. So I think you get more information. OKC, this is their role. They are 10-8 ATS on the road. Typically a road dog, we know that, and 4.5 points. Even though Miami is trending towards playing a lot better, seems like a lot. Could be a letdown spot for the Miami Heat in this one as well. So no official play for me. Just kind of wanted to share those notes with you guys on that game. The Cavs and the Jazz game is one that I do want to talk about. And then I also want to touch just quickly on the Magic and the Blazers game before I get up out of here. So won't be a long pod. Like I said, if you guys are just joining in, hit the like button for me. Also, check out the podcast on all podcast streaming platforms. If you guys want to listen to this later on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, you guys can go on. Leave me rate the podcast as well, please. That would be greatly appreciated. Trying to do these, like I said, get back into doing these every single morning. So quick reset. Let's get right. Quick break. Get right back into it. So Cavs and the Jazz. Interesting game here, right? Spread opened I saw it open at 2.5 in favor of Utah. It's up to 4 now. In favor of Cleveland. It's up to 4 now in favor of Cleveland. This is Donovan Mitchell's first game back in Utah since the trade. He's, made some comments, if you guys aren't aware, that, he has found happiness again, or I'm paraphrasing, of course, but something along those lines of he's just found happiness again. Since being in Cleveland, we know that things didn't work out. They didn't get to they didn't win a championship. And now this will be his first time back. Pretty emotional game, I would imagine. This Utah Jazz team is good in the role as a dog, right? This team is they're 6-1 as a home dog this season. What's interesting to note is that all 7 of those games where they've been a home dog this year have actually come all against the West. So they haven't had a situation where they've been home dogs to the East yet. This will be the Jazz 3rd game in 4 nights and their 4th game in 6 nights. They were off yesterday, but they played both days over the weekend. They played on Saturday and Sunday. So I'd be looking towards the Cavs in this spot. I don't trust the Cavs, though. I do think that this is the spot where I see Donovan Mitchell, try and not even just Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's going to go out here and try his hardest, of course. He's going to play, out of his mind. I think his point prop is sitting somewhere around like 29.5. And I wouldn't be taking the under, especially with how bad the Cleveland Cavaliers offense can be at times, specifically on the road, and how much they just rely on Donovan Mitchell to be able to score the ball. So 29.5, I'd only be looking towards the over. But Cleveland hasn't been the best road team. This team is not really good on the road. I think you can kind of minimize all that just because of how much the team will want this win for Donovan Mitchell. This is a revenge game for Utah. They did go to Cleveland and get smacked up. I think it was earlier in December. The beginning of December is when they went in, and we saw Lauri Markkanen play extremely well in the first half in that game. This is a revenge game for Lauri Markkanen as well. He was traded. This dude has been absolutely balling out of his mind. Excuse me. But what I look at in this game, I'm looking at the Cleveland side more than I'm looking at the Utah side. Utah is one of the worst defenses in the league. They rank just 27th defensively. You look at them over the last 5 games, they're 26th defensively. And like I said, 3rd game in 4 nights, 4th game in 6 nights. Colin Sexton, Kelly Olynyk, and Tyler Horton-Tucker are also already ruled out. So I couldn't look to back this Utah team, even though the Cleveland Cavaliers are just 6-11-2 against the spread on the road. The Jazz being 10-9 ATS at home. The Cavs are only 5-5-1 against the spread as an away favorite. And their covers have come against, listen to this, the covers for the Cleveland Cavaliers have come against the shorthanded Suns on Sunday with no Devin Booker and no Chris Paul. They beat the Pistons. I mean, you can't give it so much credit for covering against the Pistons in Cleveland. In Detroit. Also against the Lakers. And this was when before the Lakers had actually turned it on, right? This was about 2 months ago. The Pistons again, and the Bulls, and that was during the first week of the season. So this Cleveland Cavalier team does not have a convincing road win yet, in my estimation, where they've actually been a favorite, right? So, like I said, really, for me, it's kind of difficult to want to go in here and ask this team to win by multiple possessions, but that's the only way I would be able to look. Like I said, Jazz, 27th ranked defense. I know that they'll probably get up. A lot of those guys that were on the Cleveland Cavaliers that were traded for that were still on this Utah Jazz team with Donovan Mitchell last season are gone. It's only the coaching staff that are still there. Guys like Jordan Clarkson, guys like Mike Conley, right? A lot of those guys were also in the trade for Rudy Gobert. So I don't think that there's a lot of animosity. Of course, Utah is going to try to get up for this game and, just kind of protect home court. But I will be looking towards Cleveland to win this game. And I would lay the 4 if I had to. Last game I want to talk about as we move along and I close out the show is the Magic and the Portland Trailblazers. So I didn't do a lot of work on this game. Still got some more work to do. But I think it's interesting that the Portland Trailblazers have been such a poor team recently. This team is not trending well right now. If you've been following along and paying attention, Portland's kind of falling off a cliff. They started the season off really, really strong. This team was 3-7. They're just 3-7 against the spread and straight up in their last 10 games. First game back home off a nice little East Coast road trip. I mentioned they lost most recently on Sunday to the Toronto Raptors, but I mean, this team has lost before that game. They lost to the Indiana Pacers in a game where they just couldn't close out. They couldn't close out. I think Pacers ended that game on a 10-0 run, which is really really interesting when you got guys like Damian Lillard and you got guys like uh why am I drawing a blank on his name? Anthony Simons, right? These guys typically can shoot the ball. They can typically play well. If I'm looking at this game with the Orlando Magic getting smacked up yesterday, so on the opposite side, Orlando is on the West Coast trip. This will be second night of a back-to-back in their third game in 4 nights. They beat the shorthanded Golden State Warriors when Klay Thompson got ruled out at the last second on Saturday, had Sunday off, and then of course they go into Sacramento. Sacramento came out with their hair on fire last night, absolutely smack up Orlando in this spot. But laying 7.5 seems like a pretty big number, for a team that hasn't been winning recently. Initially, the first thing I thought about was, man, I really want to get to Portland early in this game. I really want to get them early in this game because they should be absolutely fired up and motivated to come out here and play extremely well in the first quarter in front of their home crowd to get the bad taste out of their mouth. But so should Orlando. Orlando's just in a bad travel spot, right? Like I said, back-to-back games on the West Coast when you're an East Coast team. These games are starting at a much later time frame than you're typically used to playing games, and trying to get your body adjusted to that time difference can be difficult. I think immediately what jumps out to me is a guy like Anthony Simons. We know Orlando struggles against guards. They have a lot of post presence, but immediately what sticks out to me is guys like Anthony Simons, guys like Damian Lillard, because Orlando does struggle against guards specifically. And typically you shoot a lot of threes against the Orlando Magic because they have a lot of paint presence, right? Guys like Wendell Carter Jr., even though he did get banged up in that game last night, not 100% sure if he returned, which is why we have time to, investigate, look into things like that. They'll need him. Bol also being out due to health and safety protocol, pretty sure that he's not going to make a return. But this Orlando Magic team has a bunch of length and athleticism on the inside. So I'd be looking for, Portland. Like I said, I want to take them early, but Portland has a track record of not playing games early and then kind of turning it on late. You would think they would want to come out and kind of assert their dominance early in this game. So that's one way I'd be looking to attack this game. Like I said, not 100% sure how I want to play it, but I do think guys like Anthony Simons and Damian Lillard have a really, really big game in this spot. They have guys that can match up with a guy like Jeremy Grant pretty well, and Nurkic as well. So I think you attack it from the Portland Trailblazer guard position. So what's that? 5 games in the books, 23 minutes in the books. Hit the like button for me if you guys haven't already. Share the show as well. And let me get to the comments real quick before I got out of here. I haven't even looked at a comment. What up, Markel? Bitsy, KC, what's going on? Brian, what's going on? Brian said, what's happening, Chris? Going to take the Blazers spread, fade Magic on second night of a back-to-back. Could not talk you off of that. What up, Ant? Donovan Mitchell narrative? I talked about it. Absolutely. Mitchell off plenty of rest and back in Utah sounds good. Nah, absolutely. Absolutely, bro. I think Donovan Mitchell being back in Utah, it's going to be a lot of emotion. I was reading some of the articles, some of the posts, some of the articles coming out of the Cleveland Cavalier beat writers, and they were talking about how he's not, Donovan Mitchell specifically doesn't really know what kind of reception to expect. They'll probably end up doing a tribute video. Not sure if the fans are going to boo him or cheer for him because he didn't win a championship, right? He was kind of talking greasy about the organization as well, once he left. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of reception he gets. But I would definitely be looking towards his props. Like I said, 29.5, even probably looking towards the assists. I think it's a really, really big game for him. And I think the guys kind of rally around him as well, and try to help him out and get a win for him. Markel said Blazers should win tonight. So if they win, gotta blaze on up. Yeah, for sure. They should definitely win the game against Orlando tonight. But 7.5 seemed like a big number. Like I said, I got to do some more work on that game. But yeah, like I said, hit the like button for me if you guys can. 25 minutes in the books, man. I appreciate you guys for rocking with me early in the morning. Just kind of sharing my thoughts with you guys. I still got some work, like I said, to do on these games before I give out official plays. But we're going to cash today. We definitely cashed in today. Best of luck to you guys. And like I said, check out the podcast on podcast streaming platforms if you guys haven't already. typically upload it right after I'm done with the show. So that's what I got for you guys, man. Best of luck to you on your action today. Tune back in with me 5:15 for the second show of the day, the Crispy Captain NBA show. We'll definitely have officials. Feel good getting back up in the morning, man, doing the shows early in the morning. Appreciate you guys. Y'all have a good one. Talk to you guys later on this afternoon.